All right, let's dive into something truly fascinating today. We're going to crack open the hidden code of ancient India, a story packed with science, philosophy, and ideas that have shaped our world in ways you probably never even realized. So let's get right to it. To really get our heads around this, let's just kick things off with a little thought experiment. I mean, seriously, what would our world actually look like if this ancient civilization had just never existed? It's not just a gap in a history book. It would change the very foundation of the life you live every day. For starters, you can just forget about the digital age. I'm serious. Without the concept of zero and the decimal system, dreamed up by brilliant minds like Aryabhatta and Brahmagupta, we'd have no calculators, no computers, no internet. The entire digital world we live in, it just wouldn't exist. Okay, on a more personal level, you wouldn't have shampoo. Yeah, no joke. The word itself actually comes from the Sanskrit word champu, which means to massage or to cleanse. People in ancient India were using amazing herbs like amla and retha for their hair centuries before the first bottle of modern shampoo ever hit a shelf. And our world would be a whole lot less sparkly. You see, up until the 18th century, India was the only known source of diamonds in the entire world. Those legendary Golconda mines, they were supplying the globe with pretty much every diamond out there for centuries. And this is just mind-blowing. Modern medicine would be missing one of its most incredible fields. Get this, a physician named Sushruta, who's now known as the father of surgery, wrote a text called the Sushruta Samhita way back in the 6th century BCE. And in it, he described over 300 surgical procedures, including unbelievably detailed instructions for rhinoplasty. That's a nose job. Even something as simple and everyday as the buttons on your shirt have their roots here. The oldest buttons ever found, which were carved out of seashells, were discovered in the Indus Valley civilization, and they date all the way back to around 2000 BCE. Something so simple, yet so essential, and we use it every single day. And of course, think about the tools we use for our minds and bodies. Yoga and meditation, which are now practiced all over the world, originated here thousands of years ago. And so did the ultimate game of strategy, chess, which started out as a game called chaturanga. It's just a staggering list of foundational ideas, isn't it? So, when you see all this, you have to ask, right? What kind of place could possibly produce so many world-changing innovations? Well, the answer isn't a single country, not as we think of it today. It was more like a vast, interconnected cultural supercontinent. The concept is known as Akhand Bharat, or Undivided India. Now, it's really important to get this straight. We're not talking about a political empire with a single ruler and rigid borders. Think of it more like a massive cultural hotspot. It stretched all the way from Afghanistan to Myanmar, and it was a region where people were connected by a common language like Sanskrit and shared ideas in science and philosophy. It was the perfect environment for knowledge to just explode. So what happened to this incredible zone of shared culture? Well, over hundreds of years, a whole mix of things started to pull it apart. The old empires crumbled, breaking the area into smaller kingdoms. Then came waves of foreign invasions, and later, British colonial rule drew new lines on the map and emphasized differences, which eventually led to the politics of partition we see in the modern era. Okay, but let's zoom back into that golden age of knowledge for a minute and look at one of its most powerful achievements, mathematics. Because these thinkers weren't just adding and subtracting, they were literally breaking the hidden codes of the universe. So you've probably heard of the Fibonacci sequence, right? Where each number is the sum of the two that came before it. Well, what if I told you that over 2,000 years ago, an ancient scholar named Pingala discovered that exact same mathematical pattern while he was studying the rhythms of Sanskrit poetry? Pretty amazing. And the genius just kept on coming. In the 14th century, a mathematician named Madhava came up with an infinite series to calculate the value of pi with incredible accuracy. And the coolest part? His instructions were written as poems, or shlokas, that basically laid out a recipe. Start with some numbers, then add and subtract a specific series of fractions over and over to get closer and closer to the true value. And look at this. This number right here, this is how accurate they were. Using another, even faster method also found in these ancient texts, they calculated pi to an absolutely astonishing 11 decimal places. This was centuries before anyone in Europe even came close. The impact of all this was just immense. And hey, Don't just take my word for it. Albert Einstein himself said, Indians gave us the method of expressing all numbers by 10 symbols. It was a gift that literally unlocked modern science for the rest of the world. Okay, so once you can handle numbers like that, you can start thinking big. I mean, cosmically big. You see, ancient Indian cosmology didn't think about time in thousands or even millions of years. They had this mind-bending concept of a cyclical universe, one with no real beginning and no real end.
They imagined time moving in these huge, repeating cycles called Yugas. Think of them like cosmic seasons. Our current age, the Kali Yuga, is the shortest, lasting 432,000 years. It's considered an age of darkness. But then you have the Satya Yuga, a golden age of truth that lasts over 1.7 million years. And all four of these yugas together make up one Maha Yuga, which is 4.32 million years long.
And you want to know the wild part? The texts get super specific about where we are right now on this timeline. According to this view, we're currently living in the 51st year of the life of the creator Brahma. We're in the 28th Maha Yoga of this particular day, and right at the very end of the cycle, in the Kali Yuga. It's like having a cosmic address. Now, when you do the math, it is just staggering. Okay, stay with me here. If just one day in Brahma's life is 4.32 billion years, and his full life is 100 of his years, that adds up to over 311 trillion human years. And since we're supposedly in his 51st year, that implies the universe has already been around for about 155 trillion years, a number that just dwarfs modern science's estimate of 13.8 billion. All right, so we've gone from tiny buttons to trillions of years in the cosmos. Let's bring this story all the way back home, full circle to the actual piece of Earth where all these incredible ideas first took root. The story of this landmass actually starts 200 million years ago. India was just one piece of the giant supercontinent Gondwana. Then, about 100 million years ago, the Indian plate broke away and started speeding north. Finally, 50 million years ago, bam! It slammed into the Eurasian plate in a collision so massive, so powerful that it pushed up the mighty Himalayan mountains, the very stage where this incredible human story would unfold. So from the literal creation of mountains to the abstract idea of a universe with no end, the legacy of this region is just incredibly deep. It gave us fundamental tools like the number 0 and advanced medical techniques like surgery. And that just leaves us with one last really exciting thought. What other hidden codes, what other brilliant ideas are still just waiting there in those ancient texts to be rediscovered?